All right, get it.
Well, great. We are recording again. My name is Luke Angstadt. This is the Business of Esoteric Knowledge and Wisdom channel. I'm the author of the book, The Musings of De La Pew. It's a 20-year investigation and study into the nature of the universe, the nature of existence, God, human beings, and the relationship between all of them. My co-host is also an author. His books are also available on Amazon. You can find the description of all of our books, not just the description, but the links to them on Amazon in the description page to this video. Also, this video is going to be a continuation of the one we just recently recorded. It hasn't been titled and uploaded yet, but it's the continuing conversation we're having on alchemy and Paracelsus. So Peter's going to introduce himself, and then we'll pick up where we left off.
Okay, this is Peter Rozovic. I'm the co-host of the Business of Esoteric Knowledge and Wisdom, altogether with Luke, and I'm the writer and seller on Amazon. I have published 3 books, which names are Nikola Tesla, Third Reich and the Extraterrestrials, The Occulture, and the Mythologies of Techno World. And all of them are available, and go for them and go buy them. But The Occulture is not to be mixed up with the Christopher Partridge's book entitled the same. I salute Christopher Partridge, but we've written another book. Mm-hmm. So this is the term that he has coined personally. Mm-hmm. And this is a great book. Those 3 books are the series, and go buy them.
You can find the links in the description page.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. We discuss about the occult phenomena, and Nikola Tesla is the greatest alchemists, one of the greatest alchemists, the greatest alchemist in modern times, because he was able to produce the matter. And we discuss about the links between art and technology in the mythologies of techno world. Yeah, and Luke's book is one of the greatest books written in this century, because this is a young century. Mm-hmm. It's a very thick book, and just imagine how many information have to be done in order to make the composition of the such a thick book.
And you can always you can swat cockroaches with it too. I mean, you just wham. I mean, they say that the cockroaches will survive a nuclear fallout, but if you give them a good whack with my book, that'll do the trick.
Well, in his preface for the upcoming book, the world as will and
representation.
And representation. Thank you, Arthur Schopenhauer.
Yeah.
Has said, in one of the prefaces for his book, he said, the one that has been written 200 years ago, he said, if nothing else for this book can be utilized just in order to pick up the dust and the bookshelves, if nothing bigger.
Yeah.
So definitely your book is twice as thicker than Schopenhauer's one. Yeah. At least when you take the particular editions, because it has the 4 editions as well, as we know, but it's differently composed than Arthur's, and it approaches the esotericism differently than he was doing. Mm-hmm. He was researching into Vedic texts and scriptures, but you do not only philosophy, but you do the esotericism on the highest level of theory. The practice is something else, but you do very profoundly.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, because I'm speaking to as it is. Mm-hmm. I'm speaking the truth.
Yeah, thank you.
And we are just enlarging our audience, both of this on this channel and on Amazon, and we're approaching our first million. Mm-hmm. And those businesses in the channel and the books. Mm-hmm. Why not? Mm-hmm. Just the first million, which ain't that difficult to achieve. Mm-hmm. I mean, just we have to take the calculator into our hands in order to calculate how many copies have to be sold. My book is about to be published in New Jersey within a couple of
Yeah, that's
weeks.
fantastic.
I'm
That's
happy.
great. That's fantastic. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah,
That's great.
and we're gonna turn back to Paracelsus when we will be in our further discussions about the elemental beings.
Mhm.
But now this topic, I guess, is dedicated to Nicolas Flamel,
Mhm.
right?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Kind of like where we left off. We were talking about how alchemy is ultimately about turning human beings. I mean, the spiritual transformation to turn us into bodies of light, and how, to borrow Nico Rocco's phrase of synthesis. I mean, we're talking about a synthesis of science and spiritual practices as well, and we're ultimately going to end the plagues of illness, aging, and death. So ultimately, this our goal is to achieve immortality here. So we are both very modest, right? I mean, it's a very modest mission here to achieve immortality. That's where this is headed, and we say it and we laugh, but there's a large part of me that is serious, as it is in you too, and I know that we are both serious at the same time. We temper it with humor, but at the same time we're also serious too. So,
It's not only very modest, but it's very honest, nevertheless, because
yeah.
it's the goal and the aim of every human being.
What is the point? Yeah. What else? What else are we? Yeah. What else? What is the point? Yes.
The point is
That
that
is
we're
the point.
bold. The point is that we're bold enough in order to express everybody's feelings and emotions that we all got in common,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? To express everybody's dreams.
Because ultimately we are all the universe right here. We are the universe personified. I mean, if there is this infinite eternal consciousness, personality, spirit that is permeating all of existence for all of eternity and all of infinity, we are the vehicles by which this personality with a capital P is able to experience anything. And unfortunately, I mean, the reason we're having this conversation about occult knowledge and wisdom is because it has been hijacked, and it has been used for ill intent for a very long time to imprison the human race, and not just physical, not just, I mean, primarily in psychological prisons, and primarily by the government and organized religion. So our objective here is to use occult knowledge, which is neutral in and of itself, but it's how do we choose to use it, and we are choosing to use it to free the human spirit.
Yeah, sure, definitely. We are about to
And to
end up.
awaken people to the fact that we are immortal beings. We are immortal. We are having a temporary experience, but we are immortal. We are.
Yeah, definitely. Uh, I always recall the situation when J.P. Morgan was kindly asking Nikola Tesla to release him from cancer disease. And he said, "Oh, come on! I know you can do it. I mean, just give me a break and release me from this stupid, malicious illness."
Mhm.
And Tesla was laughing at it. He was not insulting him, of course, but he was, because he was spiritually way high up above. And he said, uh, "Anyway, we're immortal. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter if the atoms that your body is consisted of, if they decompose, if they split off one from each other, they will remain the same. It's the question of mathematics, if you're organized this way or the atoms are sprinkled around.
Mhm.
And however, and nevertheless, the consciousness is immortal as well.
Mhm.
So you don't have to preserve your body system in this form.
Mhm.
And okay, there is the great namesake that Tesla was sharing the name with, and his name was, as we've previously announced, Nicola Flamel. And are we going to start with him?
Oh yeah. Oh, that's where I'd like to pick up. Sure.
Sure. Well, for the cinema lovers, there is the great scene in the situation, which is widely recognized by today's our contemporary audience, and that's it's about the movie uh, the wonderful monster, the wonderful creatures, the crimes of Grindelwald,
Oh, okay.
that has been created into a movie after the novel of J.K. Rowling,
Mhm.
Harry Potter's mother, of course, and so there is a situation when Jacob encounters Nicolas Flamel for the first time, and it's worthy of mentioning that Nicolas Flamel has been portrayed and acted in that film by Brantis Jodorowsky, the son of the great Alejandro Jodorowsky, who's a friend of mine, in
Oh,
spite of
okay.
the large difference of age, but it doesn't even matter,
Mhm.
of course, because people recognize each other by the inner uh, substance, not by age, of course. So, hola Alejandro, te saludo con todo mi corazón. Ese es mi amigo de toda mi vida. Hola. So this is a salute for Alejandro Jodorowsky, who's 93 years old.
Oh,
He's a great alchemist himself. We should invite him to the show
we should.
in one of our forthcoming encounters. And the Brantes Jodorowsky is a great person too. So he has two sons, Adnan and Adnan Jodorowsky or Adanovsky and Brantes Jodorowsky. So Brantes Jodorowsky was playing the role of Nicolas Flamel. So he stepped further and approached Jacob, and he said, "It's happening in a great laboratory." And he said, "Oh, don't be afraid. That noise is coming from an experiment. Je suis Nicolas Flamel, le grand alchimiste. Enchanté, monsieur. So nice to meet you." And he said, "Oh, are you a spook? Are you a ghost?" And he said, "No, don't worry. But I'm an alchemist. I'm immortal anyway. I didn't die." And Jacob replied, "Oh, you really don't look any younger than 375."
Oh, that's very nice of
But
him.
as a matter of fact, the person was more than 800 years old, because
Hmm.
the person that we are talking about was living at the end of the 14th century in Paris, and that was a man who was occupying by the illuminating of manuscripts and the preparation of the works in books and documents for publication. Nicolas Flamel has made a great legacy to the world by his discovery of the most important book, which he has bought for a neglectable amount of money from some bookkeeper uh, that he has entered in touch with by the mediation of his profession, and that was the profession of notary. So he was a public notary.
Mhm.
So the tale about that strange document, which is entitled the Book of Abraham the Jew, is best to be explained and recounted by his own words, which are preserved in his hieroglyphic images. That's the way his book is entitled. So I paraphrase here, or almost I quote here, because I'm having the eidetic image of the words. So whilst I, meaning Nicolas Flamel, a public notary after the death of my parents, was living from our craft or art of writing, creating the rules and catalogs, arranging the bills, and reducing the costs of tutors and pupils. There's been a moment when I've taken into my hands for a small sum of 2 florins a manufactured book, very ancient and very thick, very large. It wasn't made of paper nor of a parchment, just the way the other books were, but instead it was created only of the very sensitive tree crest, as it was seeming to me, of a very gentle young trees. It didn't quote the particular species. The front page was made of bronze and alloy, and it was very good connected, very good bounded, and the entire surface of the book was engraved by the letters that were etched inside of it, or instead by unusual signs. And regarding myself, I believe that those might be the Greek letters of the Greek alphabet, or some similar ancient language. And I'm sure, although I couldn't read them, but I do know very well that those were not the remarks nor letters of Latin or Gallic, nor any other language, because we understand them very low. Regarding the inner content and what was inside, the leaves and pages from the crest or the shell were engraved and carved by a proper craft, and with an attention and commitment worthy of admiration. They were carved by an iron knife or something similar to it, and were written in a very pretty and meticulously done Latin letters in color. And it had 3 times 7 pages or leaves, because they were enumerated that way on the top of the leaves. And each seventh leaf was illuminated by images in color.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the Middle Ages.
Mm-hmm.
So the first one was illuminated by a virgin and a serpent, which is swallowing it. The second seventh one was illuminated by a cross, which has a serpent, a snake crucified on it. And on the left one, the last seventh one, was engraved the desert or a wilderness, a wild, in the middle of which were emerging and outbursting numerous beautiful brooks and
You said
dews.
the first one was the first one a serpent swallowing a virgin,
Definitely.
and then the second
And
one was a serpent being crucified on a cross,
sure.
and then the third one was a desert setting with just various physical manifestations happening. I mean, what kind of manifestations are we talking about here? What are we
Well,
seeing? What kind of phenomena are happening in the desert?
Well, the brooks and the dews and the springs that numerous snakes were coming out from, and here and there, the brooks and the springs were floating towards up and towards down on both sides,
Mm-hmm.
in spite of the gravity law sometimes. So on the first of the leaves has been written by the large golden letters, Abraham, the Jew, the prince, the priest, the Levi or a Levite, an astrologist and philosopher, to the Jewish folks by the anger of God spread amongst the Gallic people. He has sent them the health. It's a very hieratic and anachronous language. The syntax is not something that we use today in modern English. So
What's the most accurate translation of that, Peter, to modern English? How does that translate?
Well,
what's the closest?
He said, I who am Abraham, the Jew, the prince, and then the prime minister, the priest,
mm-hmm.
and the Levi minister, the rabbi, an astrologist, and philosopher. I have sent the health, which probably means the proper understanding of the inner core and meaning of the alchemical book. I have sent the health meaning the power, to my recollection, mm-hmm. to the Jewish nation, mm-hmm. Which has been spread amongst the Gallic people by the anger of God. That would be the most appropriate explanation of it. Mm-hmm. So behind that all was the texture was fulfilled by immense curses and swearing words, and among those swearing words, there was a word that was popping up frequently, and that word was Maranatha. And the text was sent and directed to every person which would throw a glance or an eyesight upon it. If the person wasn't the great sacrificer or the translator of the text. So the one who has sold this book to me did not know anything about its value, nothing more than I knew in the moment when I bought it. And I do believe that it has been stolen or taken away from the miserable, unhappy Jews, or found in some of their ancient layers and dens. So in the interior of the book, on the second page, the author was, making the consolation or comfort. He was comforting his own people, advising them to get rid of the vices and whimsical feelings and to throw away any kind of the idolatry and to expect the upcoming of the Messiah with the sweet patience, as he claimed, the Messiah who will beat up all of the terrestrial earthly kings and who will be ruling with his nation and the glory within the eternity. So undoubtedly, that was a very wise and smart man. I'm still quoting. So on the third leaf and inside the total of the rest of the text, which followed, he was having an inner meaning to help his imprisoned folks to pay the bills and the tolls to do, the Roman empires and to do the other things that I will not be talking about. So he taught them by everyday language about the transmutation of the metals, and he has painted and engraved on the one side of the bowl the images of the process and explained their colors and the rest of it, everything except for the first agent, the chemical compounds. It didn't unveil nothing about, but instead, according to his own testimony, he has just painted the entire agent on the fourth and on the fifth leaf. And that's been done with a great craft and art, because although it was very well and reasonably shaped and painted, yet it couldn't be comprehended and properly understood by anybody except by a person who's very skillful in the art of Kabbalah, and the person who is stuck to the tradition, and the person who was profoundly researching their books. The fourth and the fifth leaf thus were without any text. They were completely fulfilled by the pretty illuminated images and pictures from the looking like those from the period of Enlightenment or the Renaissance, or as just as they were purified and deeply devoted, because the work, just the craft itself, was very extraordinary one. So first he has painted a young man wearing the wings on his leg rests, not on the shoulders, but on the leg rests, with the caduceus stick. For those of our audience who might not be knowing it, it's a serpent wrapped up around the stick, having a large ball on its top.
And we also find that on the symbol for the WHO. right? The caduceus with a bullseye on planet Earth. Isn't that the WHO's symbol too?
Yeah, you mean the band?
No, I mean WHO. I mean the World Health Organization.
Oh yeah,
Don't
yeah,
they,
my
don't they
bad.
have an image?
Definitely.
Isn't there like the caduceus? So it was with the serpent around the
Yeah,
pole.
sure.
On a
It's
bullseye
deeply
with the planet, if I
it's
remember.
profoundly esoteric
It
symbol.
is, yeah.
And you've got that also in every pharmacy, in any pharma facility,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, I just brought it up. Yeah, it's the cat. Yeah, it's the serpent, the caduceus
Yeah, it's the
around the pole
Aesculap
on a
snake.
bullseye. Yeah, I mean, you talk
Or
about David Icke reptilian symbolism with the reptilians coming for planet Earth. I mean, it's just staring us right in the face. But continue, Peter.
yeah. So the young man is sticking is using that caduceus with two snakes wrapped off around to hit to strike into a helmet, which was uh, covering up uh, certain parts of his body and his head in particular. So, according to my modest judgment and calculation, it seems that it was a pagan deity of Mercury. It was a god that has the interconnection with the Thoth,
Hmm.
the Egyptian deity, having or Horus with the having the beak of a falcon. And okay, so there is a large older man who's screaming. That's not hearable, but that he's flying and running with his wings widespread, and he's assaulting, his striking straight towards him, towards the young man who has uh, the sand clock depicted and you know bounded to the top of the head, while he's carrying a book, or maybe uh, or maybe a sable
Hmm.
in the right arm. He's just
So what happened to this
chopping.
book, Peter? What happened to this book with the illuminated pages? What happened to it?
Yeah, he's just chopping off the heads, just like the death. Uh, he is trying on a ferocious and furious way to cut off the Mercury's leg. So just on the other side of the fourth leaf, he has painted right on the top of it, of the very high mountain, a beautiful flower, which is you know uh, cuddled by the north wind.
Hmm.
So the zephyr, right? So its trunk is blue, and its petals and leaves are white and reddish, while the leaves itself is having their you know glance and the glitter, the gloom, like the gold, and just around it are the dragons and griffins,
Hmm.
the Hemera compounded animal, like the Sphinx itself. Yeah, yeah. So the griffins of the north are making their nests around it, and they're dwelling over there. So I was mentioning those images with a pathological preciseness, just in order to illustrate the the inner meanings of the alchemical symbols. And sometimes it's very hard to translate it, to transfer that from the realm of an image into everyday's language.
Mhm.
Although it's very important.
Mhm.
So, and the footnote to his
Do you have these? Do you have
reprinted
any? Do you have
edition.
these pictures, Peter? Do you have these pictures in a book? Do you have facsimiles of these illustrations?
Oh yeah,
Your
I'm
own
having
personal
them,
collection? So we should
and I
hold
would
them up.
like to. I would like
should hold
to
them up.
intercept them. I would like to include them into our show.
Yeah, you should hold them up sometimes if you're able to.
Yeah, sure,
Yeah.
definitely. I'm having the extracted, engraved, etched symbols directly from Nicolas Flamel book, the symbols of Abraham the Jew, directly from the jumped out from the hieroglyphical figures. So Robert Freyar said in the footnote to his reprinted edition to the hieroglyphic images of Nicolas Flamel, he said, "What seems undeniable, what seems that proves the truthfulness and genuinity of this story is that it was just that book written by Abraham the Jew, accompanied by the commentaries of Flamel himself, which he has written by his own hand on the baseline of the advices
Mhm.
given from that physician. The book was, in fact, in the hands of the Cardinal Richelieu, right? As it was just examined by the one of the members of the Vatican secret police later on.
Mhm.
So I don't think we have too much of the intern time, but on the just to
So
mention
how
that.
recently did this investigator with the Vatican look into this book? How recently did this happen, Peter?
Well, they took it definitely for
Was
the
this in the Middle Ages
purposes.
too, or was this in the Middle Ages too, or was this in recent times?
Well, I believe it was performed right in the time of the Cardinal Richelieu,
Okay.
because as it was stated in the text above, and just I want to say that in the fifth leaf, right, just in the center of a pretty garden, was a nice, beautiful, blossoming bush of roses, and in their best youth, uh, you know, uh, growing towards an empty oak tree,
Mhm.
which has a spring emerging
One minute.
in its, yeah, beneath its slopes, beneath its foot, and that was a spring of the white water, which is streaming downstairs towards the valley below,
Mhm.
but without paying any
30 seconds
attention
left.
to that, it goes through the hands of numerous peoples who are digging into the soil and looking for the water, right? But the people are blind, and
Mhm.
none of them knows the secret except here and there those ones who are calculating the weight,
Mhm.
right, of the soil.
Mhm.
Okay, so we're off here and
We
we're
are
about to continue.
momentarily, yeah. So, all right, Peter, we will pick this up.